Hi, my name is Frank Schaefer, and in the 1970s and 80s I was my evangelical father's sidekick on the big-time circuit, flying around in Jerry Falwell's borrowed jet, revving up big evangelical audiences to turn to the new right. If you hate Donald Trump, then you can partially blame my dad, Francis Schaefer, and me for what we did. When my dad died in '84, I saw the light. Well, it took a while. And I got out of the evangelical movement. I'm now a progressive activist that writes books like Why I'm an Atheist Who Believes in God, and is fighting hard to make sure that Donald Trump does not get a second term. You know, one of the most amazing and stupid things that I've observed about the evangelical movement and what's going on with Donald Trump is the way AIPAC and other Zionist organizations around the world have coddled up to the evangelical white nationalists who support Trump. Let me just tell you something. Whether you're Jewish or Christian or an atheist or agnostic, doesn't matter, a voter, an Arab, a Muslim, you need to know something about evangelicals. And I'm going to start by telling you something that's always troubled me horribly, and it's so upsetting, which is a story out of the Holocaust. Do you know that there were female camp guards in places like Auschwitz, Mauthausen, other concentration camps, and also the wives of some of the commandants would choose a Jewish child and keep that little girl or boy for a few years in the camp to play with them, much as you pick a dog from the pound that's cute. And then, with great sorrow, they gave them back for the great cause of the Holocaust before the end of the war, handing them back into the general population to be gassed along with other Jews. Children they'd had in their house play with their children. This is not apocryphal, it is true. Check it out. This actually happened. That's the depravity of the human race. Well, it's no stretch to say that when AIPAC and other Jewish organizations make a common alliance with evangelical white Christian Trump voters, they are doing something that is similar in reverse. They are becoming the playthings of the evangelicals for a while, who believe that in the end Jesus will return and burn all Jews who have not converted, not just to Christianity, but to an evangelical type born-again experience. That's in the theology. The people that AIPAC makes common cause with are very much like that camp director's wife at Auschwitz and other concentration camps who played with her little Jewish boy or girl for a while, then returned them to the camp. They play the game of supporting Israel now, believing that someday Christ will return. In fact, more than that, that Israel expanding into the old biblical borders of the Jewish empire of biblical times is necessary for Jesus to come back. And so that's, of course, why they back the most radical right-wing, racist, bigot settlers on the West Bank. That's why they will be glad that the Golan Heights has now been permanently annexed with Trump's approval. That's why they pushed for the embassy of the United States to be moved to Jerusalem. These are like the camp wives. They play with the Jews for a little while, but in the long term, what they want is a Jesus Holocaust. Do you think that's harsh? Then just go read the evangelical version of theology. That is what they believe. So beware, AIPAC. Beware those who care for Israel, as I do, someone who spent over 7 months there. Beware those who think that aligning with these lick-spittle, sycophant Trump supporters is going to do you any good in the future. Here's what it's going to do. 1, by aligning with Trump and his evangelical Zionist supporters, or I should call them truly anti-Zionist in the true long-term sense of the word, since they believe in the final Jesus Holocaust, they have sold their own people. AIPAC, in that sense, is far more anti-Semitic than anything Omar ever said. And that's the truth. Because they are making alliance with people whose very theology believes in a final blessing from God of destroying the Jewish people. Don't forget, anti-Semitism is rooted back into Lutheran Protestant theology in Europe. That's where all these denominations come from. Paper it over all you want with Jewish American friendship committees heading off to Israel for tours of the Mount of Olives. I'm telling you right now, you're in bed with the wrong people. And as AIPAC meets in Washington this week, as 18,000 supporters of AIPAC invite Christian speakers in, this cannot be papered over. A bedrock of evangelical fundamentalist theology is the destruction of the Jews. It happened in Europe from 1935 to 45, and before that, as the concentration camps were set up, And every evangelical who prays for the return of Christ, if they believe their Bible and say they do, there's no way to paper over this. They are praying for the destruction of the Jewish people. That is who AIPAC is in bed with. My name is Frank Schaeffer. When I left the evangelical community, the New York Times did a profile of me and a memoir I wrote called Crazy for God, talking about the fact that I was evangelical royalty. They said something like an evangelical prince denies his background, or whatever the headline was. That's who I am. I may not know much, but I know my evangelical theology. Trust me on this. These are the wrong friends. My name is Frank Schaeffer.